Okay, hello everybody. I think that we are now quorate, so we should begin. We've got a lot to get through today. So welcome to this unusual session of the Product Council. This session is entirely devoted to the results of the recent Mojaloop PISP bootcamp, which was hosted by DFS Labs and Jake Kendall. Essentially, I'm going to hand over to Jake entirely to introduce the participants in the bootcamp and talk through some of the results from the bootcamp and to present, hopefully, some demos of the work that was completed. And I hope that we'll be able to use this to demonstrate quite how successful these bootcamps can be. So, Jake, over to you.
Thanks, Paul. Can you guys hear me?
And can hear you perfectly, and I can see your slides as well.
Great. Okay. Well, listen, thank you all for having us here on short notice. I know that this was kind of put together a little bit last minute, so I really appreciate seeing so many people show up and come and take a look at what we're doing here. We're primarily going to focus on the two contenders in the bootcamp who were chosen as the winners and kind of their experience. They're going to demo the sort of mock-up products that they built during the bootcamp. I'm just going to give a quick overview, just for those of you who don't really have context what the bootcamps are, who DFS Lab is, and then I'm going to hand it over to the two. Just to let you guys know, though, as well, there's also going to be some more results coming out of this. We're writing up kind of a summary across all the different participants, what the lessons were, what the different products that were created were, and what the sort of implications might be for the Mojaloop product community. So that'll come hopefully kind of next week is kind of what we're aiming for. And we're also going to share the videos of the other demos and a bunch of other things. So there'll be a richer set of outputs. You guys were great to have us kind of short notice right after the bootcamp, and so we're not done with all that stuff yet, but thought it was important to get this community in the room with the hackathon participants while everything's still fresh in their minds, so that you guys can ask questions and learn as much as possible from what they did. So just to give everyone some background, just who is DFS Lab? For some of you may not know us. We're primarily an investor in the African markets. We invest in companies that are digitizing the African economy, creating a modern digital commerce stack, if you will, within the African economy. And that equates to some fintech, which is what most people are hyped about these days in Africa. But we actually believe that the bigger opportunity are marketplaces and other digital commerce models that maybe embed payments or fintech, but actually create a broader solution that brings economic activity, and in particular small businesses and sort of informal businesses into the digital economy. So that's us. This is our team. Here are some of the companies we've invested in over time, and some of the sort of global investors who followed on. We have a portfolio of about 30 companies now, and some of them are doing quite well from a financial perspective and growth perspective. And we are, always looking for new ones. So if you meet an amazing digital economy company, send them our way. In addition to investing and supporting early stage companies, we also have a branch of the DFS Lab which does innovation programs like these boot camps, as well as market research and strategy and sort of field research as well. So not everyone knows that aspect of what we do, but we do have a pretty big research. We're a small team, but we have a lot of research that we're doing and a lot of kind of innovation programs that we're running. Just to kind of ground, why do we do these hackathons for the Mojaloop project, for the Mojaloop community? There's two primary motivations. One is education and awareness. And that's, the idea there is because of our, status in the market as an investor and one who's invested in some of the market leading companies, and we have a lot of partners across the market, we're able to engage with companies in the tech sector. And so by bringing some of them to these boot camps, it really gives them an opportunity to dive deep into what Mojaloop is, why it's valuable, and what it can be used for. And we've had all kinds of companies in some of the previous ones, from Flutterwave to Paystack to PiggyVest, some of the real market-leading fintech players out there. And so we think there's a real value to just them being exposed, because they can potentially be allies and fellow travelers, for Mojaloop if it ever comes up in their local market or one of the markets where they're operating in. Most of those ones I just mentioned are sort of multinational at this point. So that's almost a side or secondary benefit. We think the primary benefit, and this is what Gates has kind of pushed us the most to do with this, with the funding they provided us, is really to create feedback into the Mojaloop developer and product community to test and validate how Mojaloop is going to be used, and thereby drive its direction and its feature roadmap. So how does that work? Well, a company, we do these boot camps. We've done, this is the third one, I believe. Yeah, the third one. Each one has had between 8 and 10 companies participate. And each company that comes, as I said, they tend to come from they're real market participants. They're building real product. They have real customers. And so if they come, they're usually thinking along the lines of, okay, so if Mojaloop existed in my marketplace, in my, in one of the countries or the markets where I'm operating, what would that allow me to build? And what we do is we force them to go through a couple-day design process and a couple-day prototyping process that deepens that answer much to be much more rich than if you were just to ask them, what would you build? So we think of this as almost validated learning. It's what, quote unquote, your customers, i.e. the fintechs and market players who would be using Mojaloop would do if they had access to it. Validated by the fact that we've actually had them walk through a longer process to make sure that they're not just sort of giving you top of mind, but actually understand what Mojaloop does and build out what they say that they wanted, and to really prove that it's what they wanted. So just to describe the process in a little more detail, days 1 and 2, kind of a design process where, of course, we give an intro to Mojaloop, but then we walk them through a design sprint. And when we've done them in person, these are some of the outputs we get. We get these sort of like storyboards, UI, UX storyboards, and then process flow maps down here on the bottom. And then end of day 2 and day 3, we build. So once we've really mapped out a clear storyboard and a commercial rationale, then we go and build it as a prototype and demo it to the group. And so that's what you're going to see here, is sort of 2 demos that came out of that. And it's a really impressive process, and the teams are able to go from 0 to kind of working Mojaloop demos in a couple of days. And these are some examples from previous boot camps. So, and that's my contact info if anyone wants to get in touch. So that's us in a nutshell. I don't know if there's any quick questions before I hand it over. Okay, great. So hopefully that was clear. Lago or Hugo, maybe you guys can go first. I'm not sure which one of you is going to present, but feel free to take it from here.
Okay, thanks.
Each company is going to do a quick introduction, show the prototype, and then they're going to talk through a little bit their experience with using Mojaloop and sort of thoughts for where Mojaloop could go. In particular, sorry, one thing I forgot to mention, this bootcamp was really about using the PISP module. So that's a important distinction from the previous bootcamps. Sorry, go ahead, I interrupted you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Hugo Pacheco, and I lead product and sales at Papersoft. I have with me Iago Silva, that is my head of product from our company. So we've created since the beginning of this year a strategy for a bottom-up strategy in the company, and our platform is called Waymo. And Waymo by Papersoft, it's aims to aggregate and automate cash in, cash out transfers, bill payments, and bookkeeping for mobile money and banking agents, so that with a single application, they can contract multiple providers from mobile money and banks, so that they are able to increase their profit at their point of sale. We integrate then with products that are shared in a marketplace, so fintechs can jump in and use our marketplace features. We can run USSDs in the background, API, or mini apps that can be configured in the platform, and basically we have a revenue share with these fintechs that from the starting point can address the offline market that's typically unreachable if you don't do an investment of a proprietary agent network yourself. So basically, we help these agents and agent network aggregators to coexist in this multi-product environment. So the goal with Mojaloop is we had used Switch in the past for cash in and cash out in Nigeria, but we wanted to have a look into how could we extrapolate to build more products, and those products could be used by these fintechs. So we have developed here kind of a prototype that you're going to see within our interface, but the goal is this to be available as an API or USSD code, so that partners can generate a code that can be used as a cash out of any of the agents that have real liquidity to execute the transaction. That's one of the key points. And this was how we played with the platform during these days. We have a demo, but if you have questions about the business model or about our company, maybe now would be the best time to stop. Any questions so far? Okay, that said, I think we can move on to our demo. Diego.
Okay, thanks, Hugo. So I'm just going to share my screen. So we have within the Design Challenge, Design Week, we have prepared a demo for the cardless cash out, as we was explaining, and we have two personas. We needed customer-facing front end, which is Terry, the one that I'm showing now. And what Terry can do is he can either initiate and start a cash out code or locate an agent. So you can access a list of agents that have liquidity already, or you can even see on a map where Terry is and try to identify the nearest agent. So they can then access the profile, they can view the details, view, for example, rating and liquidity, if it's available or not. And from here, straight for the agent, they can already initiate a cash out code withdrawal. So in this case, Terry just needs to select which account they want to cash out from. The phone number is already predefined because we have access to the profile details. The amount, so I'll put 10,000 euros, and we can calculate automatically the agent fee, for example, in this case, or other fees, and apply and showcase the total cash out amount. And when Terry clicks next, this will then generate the cash out codes and direct him to the agent that was selected. So you have the codes, Emmanuel is waiting for you on the address where Emmanuel is, and on the next page, Terry has the code. So now he has two options: either you can copy it and store it to use and go directly to the agent to withdraw to Emmanuel, or you can share with a friend or family member via any tool. For example, I'll use WhatsApp. I'll share it with myself. So I can use, in this case, the code from Terry and withdraw from that specific account. And I'll just close the process. Then on the agent sides, that will be Emmanuel. I'm just going to log out and log in as an agent now, as Emmanuel. Using my phone number. So, and my credentials, and you'll be able to see, because I'm an agent, my interface is different. So the products that I have access to are different that I can access. So my user interface is different from Terry's one. And here, let's say that Terry came up to me, or someone, in this case myself, he shared the code with me. I can go to Emmanuel. I say I want to do a cash out. You can ask me how do I want to cash out by my account. So I'll insert my account details, or do I have a code? In this case, I have the code that I can then provide to Emmanuel. We will validate the codes and validate if it's valid one, still on the time frame that is applicable. So the codes, if it passes in this time of 5 minutes, it will be automatically, 25 minutes, it will be automatically deleted. But this is configurable and is still valid on this case. I can then validate the information from the account that I'm withdrawing from, the owner, the phone number, the amount, if everything is okay. Then Emmanuel can process the cash out. And in this case, using Mojaloop, we are transferring the money from the Terry's account to the agent account. So then the agent can give the cash, the physical cash, to, in this case, to myself, as I'm using Terry codes that he gives to me to cash out. And I have then the details that this can then generate receipts that can be shared, with both the account owner and also the person that is doing the cash withdrawal. Emmanuel has also access to performance. If you want to, as an agent, to view the transactions that he's been doing, you can also access that story with resumed information. So there is no personal details here as well. And this concludes the cash out, the cardless cash out process within the Mojaloop environment. Ugo, I don't know if you want to add something or jump to the lessons learned.
Maybe just a question that happened before. It's the last forum. They asked us where we have built this. So in the background, we have a low code platform where you can place these services. That's what we do with Kintex, and we configured with the mocking some of the answers from Mojaloop from the code that was shared during the bootcamp. This is how we have built it. Okay, that was the additional context. So, any questions so far about the use cases or the demo specifically?
Hi, it's Warren. Yeah. So in this case, you're not actually being the store of value in either sides of these transactions, are you? Or what role are you playing in that?
No, so we are not the wallet. We don't work as a wallet. We are aggregators of data for transaction.
Okay, great. And you've overlaid both support for so Terry or the merchant here, neither of them needed to have been at the same, using the same financial service provider was part of that use case, right?
That's the goal. So we've been working a lot in this segment, especially for big companies that work on that closed loop. Like we worked in a couple of countries like Mozambique, DRC, and we've been doing that over the last 11 years. So our bottom-up strategy is to open up the system, so it would be independent of the brand that you represent, where you could cash out. That's kind of one of the value cores of our system, is to be open.
Brilliant, great. Amazing to see. Well done, guys.
Thank you. Okay, so Jake asked us to elaborate here some concerns to address. I will address the first one that we discussed. We highlighted immediately the kind of regulatory framework that could be different from typical use case of cash in, cash out that happens in Nigeria where we play. So would this be a different use case that would require unseen angle about the share of code to withdraw? So that was the first, more related to business model, and then there's a couple of points related to technology that Iago will address.
Yeah, thanks, Hugo. So there are also a couple of concerns that need to be addressed when it comes to technology side. First one being the management or handling of pending transactions. So, for example, in this use case, we have a two-step type of transaction in where we initiate when we generate the code, and then when the code is processed by the agent, we confirm the transaction. So the transaction stays open until the code is used. And not sure how the management of those pending transactions is handled, although we can have like the time on the cash out validity, how that is handled then on module loop side, so on the switch side. That was one of the concerns. Second one being how to handle SMSs and OTPs for each provider. So some of the transactions, they require customer authentication, and majority of the times this comes with SMS or OTP received via SMS. And from what we could see or understood, these SMSs are handled by the providers themselves. So Bank A and Bank B, they are the ones sending the SMSs with the OTP codes, and they have then different providers to send the SMSs. So how those failures are handled, because if the customer doesn't receive or the agent doesn't receive the OTP, they cannot confirm the transaction. So how all that part is handled too, because it looks this is stuff that is outside of the instant payment control, let's say, because it's handled by the providers of each one of the digital financial service providers. A third one being the use case for USSD. So as we also explained, our value proposition is heavily based on offline transactions, so using USSD. And USSD different from API calls, that in where you do an API call, you can configure a timeout of, I don't know, 5 minutes, and it stays loading until there is a response. In USSDs, the sessions are much smaller, so let's say 30 seconds, 45 seconds. And if the system or if the provider is not responding, or the system is not getting the response within that time frame, the session is closed. That means that the customer needs to start again the USSD session to ask again for the code. So how that could be handling using USSDs to integrate with this instant payment switch, and how the sessions would need to match in terms of response. And this also
Did we lost you? Yeah.
stretch tests. So those types of system performance concerns also come in handy here, because if there is a lot of transactions concurrently, how is the system handling them? The response times, are they impacted or not? And this can touch, for example, on the offline use case. So this is also a major concern then that we weren't able to address within the scope, but that leaves that we left for future interactions. I don't know if you want to add something, or if anyone has any questions related to this. I can see Hugo's question on the chat.
Yeah, let me revert and address.
That's
Can you see the question from Michael Richards?
Yeah.
On the chat.
just showing it.
Okay, so the one of the goals of the process was actually to not initiate when you are in front of the agent. I think this is the best this one. So our idea would be, for example, if you're a worker that needs to, you want to get paid in cash, this could be an option for you. And we also see typically use cases where people want to receive the money in cash. So it's the moment where you authorize the transfer versus the moment where you actually withdraw could be different. And so that's the reason why we have moved into this option to work with this kind of order delivery, and then it happens at the agent point when the customer cash out with the code. That's the reason why we went through kind of these two periods of the journey.
Yeah, I think I understand that, Hugo. But my point was that the Mojaloop part of it only really comes into play when there's an interaction between two different DFSPs. Now, at the point when the reservation is made, when you say I want to send the funds, you haven't yet understood which the eventual DFSP, the cash out, the agent, which agent will be involved, or the agent of which network will be involved. So what I was thinking was that if you reserve the funds in the sender's account, just to prevent them being sent twice, then the agent can send a request to pay based on the voucher. It comes to the sending institution, which says, oh, I recognize this. I can go ahead and make it a Mojaloop transaction now, transfers the funds immediately, bang.
Okay, got it. So I think there's two aspects there. The first one is the agent can decide which account would be cashing in the money, right? Because back to the early stage, we are trying to get them agents that have multiple accounts, so they are serving multiple DFSs there. So that's one point. And the next one, we actually also need to transact the fee that is set for as his own transaction.
But they can be included in the request to pay, I think. Anyway, sorry, I don't want to derail you. It just occurred to me that would be a way of doing it that would get round the problem of, I mean, as a general principle, I think we don't like the idea of leaving Mojaloop transactions open for long periods. So I think, we would, from a Mojaloop perspective, I think I'm right in saying, I'm not Paul, that we would very much rather have a more or less instantaneous transfer in the Mojaloop system.
And then revert back if it doesn't happen. Is that it?
No.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So if nothing happens, then the sending DFSP can just say, okay, cancel the reservation. And nothing's happened in the Mojaloop system at that point. Sorry,
I got it now. So yes, we didn't have time to explore that part of the system within the bootcamp.
Sure.
That could be an interesting use case. We have discussed in security terms. We would put this code sessions around 30 minutes for security purposes, because you don't want to. This could be very big period since you generate to when you share and for the person to cash out. So we have went through the security parts around it, but not on technical. We didn't have time to explore other alternatives. Thank you for your comment. It was a good input.
Yeah, it'd be great if we could. Well, if we let us try and have another session, just to kind of brainstorm some of that, because I'd be quite interested in walking you through what Michael's just outlined there. It was very. He and I were very aligned in what we were hoping you were doing there, but we'd like to talk to you about that a bit more and just see if there's something interesting in that particular flow and process that they'll be interesting for wider consumption.
Great, yeah, and I can We can help sort of facilitate a side meeting at some point this week or next if you guys want to do that side call or something. Actually, they're going to be at in Zanzibar as well, so you guys could talk about it then as well.
Excellent. That will be great.
Yeah,
We will
great.
be
We'll
there.
set something up. We will look forward to meeting you.
Cool. Great. Okay. Maybe let go of the share, Hugo, and then
I'm just stopping now.
great.
And it's done. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you guys both.
Thank you.
Elijah, are you guys ready to roll?
Yes, I'm ready. Can you hear me? Let me
Yes.
share my screen.
Go ahead and share, yeah.
Let me share the screen. So
So AlphaJiri were the other kind of winners of the boot camp, and they're doing a bulk pay application. So
okay, I hope you can see my screen and it's clear enough. Okay, so AlphaJiri is a company that we founded with a couple of my friends in school. So what we intend to do is to solve problems in our communities using technology. So my name is Elijah Okello. Like I said, I'm a software engineering student at Makerere University in Uganda. My other friend is in this course, is called Josephine Bonka. I just forgot to include on the slide. So let's jump right into it. Now, AlphaCenter is a solution that we are constructing for easing the dissemination of funds from institutions to an arbitrary list of beneficiaries. Now, the idea here is that usually companies or institutions have funds in Uganda. I do not know about the other world, but like in Uganda, some institutions usually have funds in multiple bank accounts for many reasons, maybe currency or for separation of concerns. It really doesn't matter, but they usually have funds in different accounts, and they would maybe want to make bulk payments from a certain account at any point in time. So what we are helping them to do is first of all ease dissemination of funds, regardless of the degree to financial service provider in which they are resident, and then also easier records management and accountability. And then also another cool feature that we discovered in Modulo is the ability to, for account numbers, to be able to verify an account number if it matches a beneficiary name, in order to prevent like, how do I call it? Misunderstandings, not misunderstandings. To prevent mistakes really during the process. That's the word I was looking for. To prevent mistakes in the transaction. So I'm going to take you through our experience during the implementation. Now, because since we are doing a bulk payment solution, we are making multiple transactions, an arbitrary number of transactions to many people. It was quite it was a little bit of a challenge to figure out how we're going to do it, since Modulo only that testing toolkit that was shared with us only supports a one-time PISP transaction at a time. So what we decided to do is to do it in a loop. Yeah, that's it. But I still feel like a lot of more support can be given from an infrastructure level, from Modulo itself to facilitate bulk payments a bit more, and I'm going to share how that can be done in a slide later on. So I personally did not find the account linking documentation very clear. Yeah, so I think we need to have like a bit of discussion, I think, with someone else to understand it more. Yeah, and then in the testing toolkit, there were limited number of PFSPs for testing. I mean, we are doing a bulk payment, so I think I would want to have a huge number of PFSPs. I would also want to know about multi-currency support in Modulo, especially in the 3PPI. I think it would be very important for me to know, because we intend to expand our operation, not just in Uganda. So I think later on I can be helped to understand how we can, whether we need to deal with it ourselves or there is some support in Mojaloop itself. Also, the approval process during account linking. Now, since many DFSPs usually like to send out OTPs for every transaction, I don't know if an institution, for example, wanted to do to make payments to 100,000 people. I want to think that it would be very tedious to enter an OTP 100,000 times for 100,000 transactions. So I'd really want us to have a discussion on how we should go about that. If the account linking sorts out the approval, rather like the authentication, and we will not need to use OTPs, I think that would be great. But I think I also need more information on how account linking makes our PISPA application able to initiate transactions, an arbitrary number of transactions. Yeah, that's really it. So the recommendations for what I think I would want Mojaloop to have, I think, like I mentioned earlier, we would really want to have more infrastructure support for bulk payments, i.e. to allow for bulk lists to be submitted at each step of the 3PPI process. So what I mean there is that if I want to do account linking, I could just share, rather send a list of, a structured list or a formatted list of people to the API, to an endpoint, and then it would return all the results at once. So I think that would be very good, because it would have some good separation of concerns. But if you, of course, I'm open to any advice that anyone could be having, but I think that would really be easy for us, and also for other people who want to, implement bulk payments on the Mojaloop PISP service. I think it would be really easy for them and ease adoption. So that's my email address, and I'm going to jump into the demo. So for the demo, I have two windows open here. Now, this here you're seeing is the landing page. But for a little bit of more context, in our system, we have two users, right? Now, usually an institution has a finance person, and then there is the one that approves payments in the institution. So in this case, the finance person who does like the hard work of populating lists and, checking for correctness or doing this, like generally just the hard work of compiling the lists and making the payment actually is a finance officer. And then the finance manager does the approval, right? So in this tab, see this tab here, I have the screen that the finance manager sees. And then in this tab, I have the screen that the finance, rather this is finance manager. And then this is for the finance officer. Now, when the finance officer gets onto here, they want to import a list. Now, down here is a list of previous beneficiaries that have been paid in the system. Of course, it has been populated because of testing. I was testing it, so this is there. Now, during the Mojaloop bootcamp, our facilitator helped us understand that the part of importing a list is usually very important to the user, and that we need to make sure that the process is as simple as possible. That's why there's this button here. So this button of import list, so they can select user a list of people from the people they have paid before. Anyone that has been paid before can be selected. And then if you need to import a new list, right? If you need to import a new list, you click on here, and then you'll have options for me to import. You can import from an Excel file, you can import from QuickBooks, you can import from a payroll system. The only functionality that is implemented as of now is the Excel file import, since in Uganda, most companies keep their employees' data in spreadsheets, and I think it is easier for them to, just transfer the data that way. Now, so I'm going to show you just before we go into it. I have two files open here. I have a file called test playlist with wrong names, test playlist wrong names. Now this one has account names that will not match the account number. Now this is an account number that is in the testing toolkit, and then this is a name that is in the testing toolkit. So I'm going to start by uploading this test playlist with wrong names, and we should see the account lookup failing and telling the user that the account names don't match the account number. So how this happens in the background is that we receive the list, and then we have the account name and the account number. So we call the testing toolkit API to do an account lookup. The name that is returned is what we compare with the name that was provided in the Excel file. And if they don't match, then the account lookup has failed. So let me just show you here real quick. Now, as you can see, we tell the user to upload an Excel file that has a beneficiary column, email, account number, account name, amount, and the bank name. Bank name stands for the DFSP ID. So we shall go ahead to upload. Shall go ahead to upload the file. So I'm going to upload this one, test playlist wrong names.xlsx. So this one has wrong name, so we should see some accounts failing. So this is the data that has been imported. These are the people that were selected from the previous, and this is the data that has been imported from the Excel file. Now, the correct account name for this account number is Justin Trudeau, this one here. But as you can, if you notice, this one has an I missing, and this one has an I missing, and this one has an R missing. So those are the ones for which account lookup should fail. So after this, I think at this point, the user can then go down and then click preview playlist. So when they click preview playlist, this is going to submit it to the API, and then it should return results. Now, as you can see, there's some, account lookup results that have failed. And since they have failed, this button usually, which shows submit playlist for approval, is going to be grayed out, and the finance officer cannot submit this. So they will have to go back and they'll have to go back and select, either correct correct the mistakes, because you see these names, and this name is not just Trudeau. If you notice, this one is the correct one, and this two is the correct one. So these ones have been, they've passed the account lookup. We have the testing toolkit running here in the background. So it's the one that's doing all that fancy stuff. So I'm going to go back and let's refresh it. So I'm going to now import a file that has correct names, okay? So I'm going to import a file that has correct names. I'm going to come back here. To import a file so this one has correct names, and let's import it. So these are the names. I think you can see the names are correct. And so I'm not going to select anyone from the previous list. Then we go into preview the playlist, and you can see the account lookup has passed, and this time around you can send approval. So down here you put the name of the list. I'm going to call it salaries for maybe site workers or something. I'll send it for approval. Now, this will create a new batch playlist and send it to the server. Server will save it, and then the user will be routed back to this page. Now, as you can see, there's a new list that has been created here, and it shows status pending. It's pending because the finance manager has not yet, approved it. Okay, so let's head over to the finance manager screen. Now, on the finance manager screen, if I reload it, we should see a new payment that has just been created. So this one, you see, and you can see the button here is review, right? So when I click review, now the finance manager can see the people that have been, populated, making sure that they are the people. Generally, he's just making sure that whoever is being paid is actually supposed to receive money. Yeah, that's it. I don't know, maybe background conversations can happen in the back. You can either reject or approve the list. So I'm going to approve this list, and I'm going to approve it, but they can reject it. So I'm going to just approve it. So after it has been approved, it shows approved over here. The salaries for site workers, as you can see, this one. When you go back to the tab for the finance officer, if I refresh, the pay list that we just created must now be approved, and it's ready for payment. This one here. So you can click pay over here. And when you click pay, once again, it previews the list of the people that are going to be paid, shows account lookup all looking good. So usually a playlist cannot reach this point if account lookup hasn't passed. I think that's pretty clear. Now at this point, usually when the finance officer is doing this, in this demo, we are moving on the premise that account linking was already done, and the company has 2 banks that have already been linked onto their system. And so at this point, they can choose a bank from which finances are to be picked. So I'm going to choose Centenary Rural Development Bank. This is a bank from Uganda, and I'll click pay. And when I click pay, it is going to do a bulk payment. Okay, it's going to do a PISP transfer for every person in the list. And yeah, when it finishes, it will show success, and you can go back to the dashboard. That's basically it for that demo. And every new payment is actually logged in the transactions log. So they were less than this. It's not more than 37, but it was less than this before we made the payment. So basically that's it. I think you can see here that we have a salaries for site workers batch name. So there are entries in this transaction log for that. And basically that is it for the demo. I don't know if there are any questions that you can be asked now.
Very nice. Good to see. Is this product and service you're working with? Are you working with somebody at the moment in Uganda, or are you still kind of earlier stage in that in terms of evolving the product?
We are still in very early age. We are still actually actively building the product. That's it.
Great. And are you guys going to be in Zanzibar as well, by any chance?
Yes, we're going to be in Zanzibar.
Okay, good. Definitely would like to just chat with you in person as well if we get the opportunity, and then I'll save some of my questions. But I think this is a good example of clarifying that thought process about where, as you say, where the infrastructure help is versus the, what services and functionality becomes part of the switch service offering, and how it supports the PISPs, fintechs that are connected to it. And I think those things are different, because help doesn't always mean it has to be things that run at the center. There can be things that could be specialist tooling that PISPs can have and have ownership of. Yeah, very interesting to see your learn from your experiences. But more than that, just to say well done for making it all work and come together so well.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And apart from seconding Warren's congratulations on an excellent solution, I've been working on the third-party payment interface for Mojaloop and on potential improvements to it. So we should really get together in Zanzibar. And I mean, because your application is one of the ones that we recognize is not really completely served yet by the Mojaloop API, and we are working on enhancements. But to have real world requirements like yours is really gold dust for us. So let's get together in Zanzibar and talk about it.
Okay.
Great, thanks, Elijah. Please check on the chat. There's a question from Manzi. I think he wants to know if you're connected to any payment aggregator or payment switch.
Okay, let me check the question. Not really. We're using Mojaloop in Sandbox, really. And I don't think the answer to that is no. We're not using any payment aggregator apart from the testing toolkit that was shared during the bootcamp. I hope that answers the question. Oh, great.
And just out of interest, was everybody that was doing this bootcamp, was it all based on the TTK? Where everyone's
Yes, right. Yeah.
okay, cool, excellent. It really speaks to the success of that as a training and technology tool, and also the true nature of API led designs, where the system can be well served by simulations rather than all the infrastructure required.
Yeah, I think one of the big reasons was also that we were able to simplify because we had the third-party SDK similar to our SDK schema adapter for the FSP interoperability API. On the third-party SDK, we had the 3P SDK schema adapter, so that actually simplifies and also makes the requests synchronous similar there. So that helped, and we chose that for the sandbox setup this time.
Yeah, makes perfect sense to me. It feels like we've reached some of those milestones and objectives with those solutions that we were hoping for. It's been able to be used in this way, seemingly quite effective. So yeah.
Is that it? I think I can drop my presentation, if that's okay.
Yes, I think we don't have any more questions. Thank you, Elijah.
You're welcome. Thank you too.
Great.
So maybe Jake.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Desire. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna call on you to see if you had any other additions.
No, I was just going to thank the two teams for showing us their work and thank everyone for their questions. And I guess, came out during the presentations, but they are going to be in Zanzibar, which I know a lot of you will also be there. I'm unfortunately not able to make it because of other commitments, but probably more important to be in touch with them anyway. So yeah, please, definitely reach out to them when you're there. And they're going to have a session on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. Desire, you can correct me if I'm wrong. And like I said, we're going to be sharing more over time, the sort of broader set of results that came out of the bootcamp, and would love, any of your feedback. If you see some of the stuff we share and want to send me a note and just say, this was great, or this could have been better if you'd have done X, Y, and Z, we're always happy to get that kind of feedback, or just to kind of dialogue about what we saw. So thanks again.
Great, thanks a lot, Jake. Thank you everyone for joining us. I think we're almost towards the end. As Jake said, both the participants will be in Zanzibar, so please feel free to reach out. This session is recorded. We'll make sure that we share it out once it's ready, and I'll just ask the participants if you can share their presentations, so we can share your presentation with the group, as well as contact details for those people who won't be in Zanzibar. Apart from that, thank you very much for your contributions, and hoping to see you all next week. We'll also be live for those of you who can't join us in Zanzibar. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks very much. Bye.
Bye.